Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe and support me. The night sky over Lumina was a tapestry of brilliant stars, each one humming with a gentle energy that could be felt by all who opened their hearts to it. In this world, starlight wasn't just a distant glow, it was a tangible force, a source of healing for the body, mind, and soul. The villagers of Lumina lived in harmony with the celestial patterns, celebrating the constellations and relying on the star shepherds to guide them. Cain stood atop the hill overlooking his village, the soft grass beneath his feet and the cool night air brushing against his skin. He closed his eyes and tilted his head toward the heavens, listening intently. The stars whispered their ancient songs, melodies that only a few could hear. Cain was among those few, a star shepherd gifted with the ability to hear the stars' murmurs. Tonight, however, something felt different. A faint discord lingered in the celestial harmony, a subtle imbalance that only he seemed to notice. He shook off the unease and made his way down the hill. The village below was alive with the warm glow of lanterns and the sound of laughter. Children chased fireflies, their giggles filling the air, while elders sat in circles sharing tales of old. Cain smiled softly as he walked through the bustling streets, nodding to familiar faces. "Good evening, Cain," called out Myra, a woman with kind eyes who ran the local bakery. "Will you be joining us for the constellation ceremony tomorrow?" "Wouldn't miss it for the world," he replied, his eyes twinkling. He continued to the healing pavilion, a serene space adorned with crystals that refracted starlight into shimmering patterns. People from neighboring villages had come seeking relief from various ailments. Cain moved gracefully among them, placing his hands gently over wounds and weary hearts. As he focused, threads of starlight wove through his fingers, bringing comfort and peace to those in need. "Thank you," whispered an elderly man, his eyes moist with gratitude. "I feel young again." Cain nodded humbly. "The stars carry wisdom and healing for all of us." As the last patient left, his mentor, Elder Thorin, approached. "You've done well today," Thorin said, his voice a deep rumble. "But you seem troubled." Cain hesitated. "Have you noticed anything unusual in the stars' songs lately?" Thorin stroked his silver beard thoughtfully. "The stars sing as they always have." "What do you hear?" "There's a dissonance, a note that doesn't belong." The elder studied him carefully. "Perhaps it's a call for you to listen more closely." That night, Cain lay awake in his modest dwelling, staring up through the skylight at the sea of stars. Sleep eluded him as the unsettling feeling grew stronger. Eventually, exhaustion overtook him, and his dreams were filled with swirling constellations and echoes of distant voices. The following day, the village was abuzz with excitement for the celestial convergence, a once-in-a-millennium alignment of stars that promised blessings and prosperity. Colorful banners adorned the streets, and the aroma of sweet pastries filled the air. Cain tried to shake off his apprehension, immersing himself in the festivities. As dusk settled, the villagers gathered in the central plaza, eyes turned skyward. The stars began to align, forming a radiant path across the night. A hush fell over the crowd as a beam of concentrated starlight descended upon the ceremonial altar. Cain stepped forward, his role to channel the convergence's energy for the well-being of all. He raised his hands, and a soft glow emanated from his palms. The stars' whispers grew louder, enveloping him in their ethereal melody. Suddenly, a jarring pulse rippled through the air. One of the stars in the alignment flickered and dimmed. A murmur of confusion spread among the villagers. Before Cain could react, a shock wave of energy surged toward the ground. Instinctively, he lunged to protect a nearby child, pulling her close as the wave struck. A searing pain shot through him, and the world around faded into darkness. When he awoke, Cain found himself lying in the healing pavilion. The familiar sounds of the village were muffled, and a heavy silence pressed upon him. He sat up slowly, his body aching. "You're awake?" came Thorin's voice from beside him. "What happened?" Cain asked, his throat dry. There was an anomaly during the convergence. You've been unconscious for 2 days. Kane's eyes widened. The stars. I can't hear them. Thorin's expression was grave. We feared as much. Your connection has been severed. Panic welled up inside him. The ever-present whispers that had been his constant companions were gone. He felt hollow, disconnected from the very essence of his being. We don't know how to restore it, Thorin admitted. Such a thing has never occurred before. Kane stood shakily. I have to find a way. Over the next few days, he sought answers from the Star Council, but their ancient texts held no solutions. The villagers offered sympathy, but their pity only deepened his despair. The fading star remained dim, a constant reminder of the imbalance. One evening, while sifting through dusty scrolls in the council's archives, Kane came across a brittle manuscript. Its faded ink spoke of the echoing star, a legendary source of all starlight believed to reside beyond the known realms. Hope flickered within him. If he could find the echoing star, perhaps he could restore his connection and maybe even rekindle the fading star. Determined, Kane packed a small satchel with essentials, a star map, the pendant Thorin had given him, a simple stone that seemed to pulse with latent energy, and some provisions. As he prepared to leave, Thorin approached. You're set on this path? The elder asked. I have to do this, Kane replied firmly. For myself and for everyone affected by the imbalance. Thorin placed a hand on his shoulder. May the stars guide you, even if you can't hear them. Under the cover of night, Kane set off, the vast expanse of the unknown stretching before him. The path led him through the luminescent forest, a place he'd only heard about in stories. Trees towered above, their leaves glowing softly, casting a gentle light on the forest floor. Tiny creatures flitted about, leaving trails of sparkles in their wake. As he ventured deeper, the forest seemed to come alive. Whispering winds carried echoes of laughter and sobs, confusing his senses. Suddenly, the path ahead twisted and vanished. He spun around, but the way back had disappeared as well. Lost? Came a playful voice from above. He looked up to see a young woman perched on a branch, her eyes reflecting the forest's glow. Who are you? He asked wearily. Name's Lyra, she said, hopping down gracefully. And you're trespassing. I didn't realize this forest belonged to anyone, Kane retorted. She shrugged. It doesn't. But it's not safe for wanderers. The luminescent forest has a way of ensnaring those who don't know its secrets. Kane sighed. I'm on an urgent quest. I need to find the echoing star. Lyra's eyebrows shot up. Ambitious and foolish. Why should I help you? Because I have no one else to turn to, he admitted. She studied him for a moment. Fine. I was heading that way anyway. But try to keep up. Together, they navigated the forest's shifting trails. Lyra seemed to have an innate sense of direction, her movements fluid and confident. As they walked, she hummed a tune that blended with the forest's sounds. How do you know this place so well? Kane asked. I've been roaming these parts for years, she replied vaguely. They reached a clearing where the trees parted to reveal a sky swirling with unfamiliar constellations. Kane felt a pang of loss, unable to hear their songs. Lyra glanced at him. What's your story? He hesitated but found himself sharing everything of the convergence, the fading star, his lost connection. She listened intently. Sounds like you're carrying a heavy burden. What about you? He countered. Why are you traveling alone? Her gaze shifted away. I'm searching for something too. Before he could press further, a low growl echoed around them. Shadows began to coalesce at the edge of the clearing, forming into menacing shapes. Umbra shades, Lyra whispered, her hand moving to the hilt of a dagger at her side. Creatures that thrive in the absence of starlight. Kane's heart raced. Without his abilities, he felt vulnerable. What do we do? Stay close, she instructed. The shades lunged, their forms shifting and twisting. Lyra moved swiftly, her dagger slicing through the darkness, each strike emitting a flash of light. Kane tried to fend off the creatures with a branch, but it passed through them uselessly. One of the shades surged toward him, its cold presence sapping his strength. Just as it was about to engulf him, Lyra intervened, her dagger piercing the shade and causing it to dissipate. "You're not much use in a fight, are you?" she teased breathlessly. "Not without my connection," he admitted. They managed to push back the shades, which retreated into the depths of the forest. Panting, they collapsed on the ground. "Thank you," Kane said, his voice sincere. "Don't mention it," Lyra replied, sheathing her dagger. "We need to find shelter. They'll be back, and in greater numbers." They found refuge in a hollow beneath an ancient tree. As they settled in, Kane couldn't help but feel humbled by his reliance on a stranger. "I've been so focused on my own loss that I didn't consider how unprepared I am," he mused. Lyra looked at him thoughtfully. "Everyone has strengths and weaknesses. The key is knowing when to lean on others." He smiled faintly. "Wise words." She poked at the small fire they'd built. "So, the echoing star. What do you hope to achieve when you find it?" "I want to restore my connection and heal the imbalance affecting my people," he said. She nodded slowly. "I hope you find what you're looking for." Silence settled between them, comfortable yet filled with unspoken thoughts. The next morning, they set out again, the forest gradually giving way to rocky terrain. The path led them to the abyss of echoes, a vast chasm that seemed to stretch infinitely in both directions. "How do we cross this?" Kane wondered aloud. Lyra pointed to a series of stone pillars protruding from the depths. "We jump." "You're kidding." She grinned. "Not at all. But step where I step. The echoes here can play tricks on you." They leapt from pillar to pillar, the abyss below swallowing any sound other than the reverberating echoes of their movements. Midway across, Kane paused. A voice, a faint but familiar, whispered his name. "Did you hear that?" he asked. Lyra glanced back. "Hear what?" "My name." "Someone called out to me." She shook her head. "It's the abyss. It reflects your inner thoughts. Ignore it." But the whisper grew louder, more insistent. It was his own voice, filled with doubt. "You failed them," it said. "You're unworthy." Kane's footing faltered. He swayed dangerously close to the edge. "Focus!" Lyra shouted, grabbing his arm. "Don't listen to it." He closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. The whispers subsided, and he steadied himself. "Thank you," he said shakily. They reached the other side, and the landscape transformed once more. The shadow realm loomed at a place where darkness reigned and starlight was but a memory. The air was thick, and an unnatural chill seeped into their bones. "Stay alert," Lyra warned. "This place preys on fears." As they ventured deeper, shadowy figures began to materialize, each one reflecting a hidden insecurity. Kane was confronted by a figure that mirrored himself but with eyes devoid of light. "Who are you?" Kane demanded. The shadow smirked. "I am you, untethered, powerless." "You've lost your purpose." "That's not true," Kane retorted, though uncertainty gnawed at him. The shadow advanced. "Without the stars, you're nothing. Why continue this futile quest?" Lyra stepped beside him. "Don't let it deceive you." He looked into the shadow's eyes and saw his own doubts laid bare. Summoning his courage, he spoke firmly. "I may have lost my connection, but I haven't lost myself. My worth isn't defined by one ability." The shadow wavered, its form flickering before dissipating into the mist. Lyra smiled approvingly. "Well done." They pressed on, the oppressive atmosphere gradually lifting as they overcame each challenge. Finally, they emerged onto a plateau bathed in a soft glow. In the distance, a bridge of starlight arched toward a floating island at the celestial nexus. Kane's heart quickened. "We're close." They crossed the bridge, each step resonating with a musical note. Upon reaching the island, they stood before a colossal star fragment pulsating with radiant energy. "Welcome," a voice echoed, enveloping them. An ethereal figure emerged, composed entirely of shimmering starlight. "Are you the guardian?" Kane asked, awestruck. "I am," the being replied. "You have journeyed far. What is it you seek?" Kane stepped forward. "I seek to restore my connection to the stars and heal the imbalance affecting my world." The guardian's gaze seemed to pierce his very soul. Why do you desire this? He took a deep breath. I thought my purpose was solely to heal others through the stars, but I've come to realize that healing begins within. I need to find balance in myself to truly help my people. The guardian nodded slowly. Wisdom earned through hardship is wisdom that endures. Lyra watched silently, her eyes reflecting the star's glow. Your journey has tested you, the guardian continued. You have faced your fears and acknowledged your vulnerabilities. Are you prepared to accept the responsibilities that come with renewed connection? Yes, Cain affirmed. The guardian extended a luminous hand, touching his forehead. A surge of energy coursed through him, reigniting the dormant bond. The star's whispers flooded back, richer and more vibrant than ever. Tears welled in his eyes. Thank you. The guardian then turned to Lyra. And you, Seeker? Your journey is intertwined with his. Lyra looked surprised. I only wish to help him. The guardian smiled gently. Your selflessness has not gone unnoticed. Take this. A small, glowing seed appeared in Lyra's palm. She gazed at it in wonder. What is it? A fragment of starlight. It will heal that which you hold dear. She clutched it close to her heart. I don't know how to repay you. Live with purpose and compassion. That is all the repayment needed. Cain and Lyra exchanged a grateful glance. I will continue the story in the next response. Cain and Lyra exchanged a grateful glance. The air around them shimmered with renewed energy, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, Cain felt whole. The stars above pulsed in harmony with his heartbeat, their whispers weaving intricate melodies that filled his soul. Thank you, he said again to the guardian, his voice filled with reverence. The guardian nodded softly. Your journey has just begun. Remember, the connection between the stars and your people is a living bond. Nurture it well. With a gentle wave of its luminescent hand, the guardian began to fade, dissolving into a cascade of stardust that mingled with the soft glow of the celestial nexus. Cain turned to Lyra, who was gazing intently at the glowing seed cradled in her palm. Tears glistened in her eyes. Are you all right? He asked gently. She looked up, her expression a mixture of joy and disbelief. I never imagined I'd find a way to heal my sister. This is everything. He smiled warmly. I'm glad we could help each other. She returned his smile, and for a moment, they stood in silence, enveloped by the serenity of the nexus. We should head back, Lyra said finally, her voice tinged with urgency. Our people need us. Agreed, Cain replied, and perhaps along the way, we can begin to restore the balance. They retraced their steps across the bridge of starlight, the path now feeling less daunting. The shadows that once loomed seemed to retreat, and the air was infused with a newfound hope. As they entered the luminescent forest, the trees glowed brighter than before, their leaves shimmering in vibrant hues. The creatures of light floated about more boldly, as if welcoming them. Cain noticed that the oppressive weight he'd felt earlier was gone, replaced by a sense of harmony. It's as if the world knows, Lyra mused, her eyes scanning the radiant foliage. Perhaps it does, Cain replied. The stars and our world are connected in ways we are only beginning to understand. They continued onward, sharing stories and laughter, their bond growing stronger with each step. Lyra opened up about her past, telling him about her sister's illness and her desperate search for a cure. I felt so helpless, she admitted, watching her fade while I could do nothing. Cain nodded empathetically. I understand that feeling. Losing my connection to the stars made me question everything about myself. But look at us now, she said, her tone lifting. We've both found what we were seeking. He glanced at her, a soft smile playing on his lips. Maybe our paths were always meant to cross. When they finally emerged from the forest, the village of Lumina stretched out before them. But instead of the vibrant community Cain remembered, the village seemed shrouded in gloom. Houses were dark, and the usual bustling streets were eerily quiet. A knot formed in his stomach. Something's wrong. They hurried down the path, passing wilting gardens and empty marketplaces. The few villagers they saw moved sluggishly, their faces etched with despair. Cain approached an elderly man sitting on a stoop, What has happened here? The man looked up, his eyes dull. Since the convergence failed and you left, things have worsened. The fading star has taken our hope with it. Guilt washed over Kane. He had been so focused on his quest that he hadn't considered the impact of his absence. I'm sorry, he whispered. Lyra placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. You couldn't have known. They made their way to the central square, where a small crowd had gathered around Elder Thorin. His expression brightened upon seeing Kane. You're back. I am, Kane said, stepping forward, and I bring good news. The connection has been restored. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Thorin's eyes searched Kane's face. Is it true? Kane nodded. But we must act together to heal the damage that's been done. He addressed the villagers, his voice strong yet compassionate. I know you've been through a difficult time. The fading star reflected our collective despair. But just as the stars can influence us, we can influence them. Our hope, our unity, can rekindle its light. A young woman stepped forward, her face streaked with tears. What can we do? Join me tonight, Kane replied. Under the stars, we will share our stories, our fears, and our hopes. Together, we can restore the balance. That evening, the entire village gathered in the open field outside Lumina. Lanterns were lit, casting a warm glow over the assembled crowd. Kane stood in the center, Lyra by his side. He began by sharing his journey of the challenges he faced, the doubts he overcame, and the wisdom he gained. Lyra followed, telling of her own struggles and the strength she found in companionship. One by one, the villagers opened up, their voices mingling in a tapestry of shared experience. As they spoke, the atmosphere shifted. The heaviness that had gripped them started to lift, replaced by a gentle optimism. Kane raised his hands toward the sky. Now, let us reach out to the stars, not with fear or despair, but with hope and gratitude. They all looked up. The night sky, once dimmed by the fading star, began to shimmer more brightly. The constellations twinkled, and the whispers of the stars grew audible to all, a soft chorus that resonated deep within their hearts. A collective gasp rose from the crowd as the fading star flickered and then burst into radiant light, illuminating the night like a second moon. Cheers and laughter erupted. Children danced, elders wept with joy, and strangers embraced. The village pulsed with life once more. Thorin approached Kane, his eyes shining. You've reminded us of the power we hold when we stand together. It wasn't me alone, Kane replied. It was all of us. Over the following days, Lumina transformed. Gardens bloomed with renewed vigor, and the air buzzed with creativity and collaboration. Kane and Lyra worked tirelessly, helping to rebuild homes, teaching children about the stars, and fostering a spirit of unity. Lyra's sister, Alara, arrived in the village, her cheeks flushed with health. She embraced Lyra tightly. I don't know how, but I feel completely healed. Lyra smiled, tears of happiness welling in her eyes. She showed Alara the now dim Starlight seed. This brought you back to me. Kane watched the reunion with a full heart. Seeing the joy between the sisters reinforced his belief in the interconnectedness of all things. One afternoon, as the sun cast golden hues across the fields, Kane found Lyra sitting beneath a sprawling oak tree, sketching in a worn notebook. He sat beside her. What are you drawing? She tilted the notebook to show him a detailed map of their journey, from the village to the celestial nexus. I don't want to forget any of it. He traced a finger over the lines. It's beautiful, just like the journey itself. She met his gaze. I couldn't have done it without you. Nor without you, he admitted. A comfortable silence settled between them, the weight of unspoken feelings hanging in the air. Finally, Lyra broke the silence. So, what's next for you? He took a deep breath. Thorin has asked me to join the Star Council. He wants me to help guide our people. That's wonderful, she said sincerely. You'll be a great leader. And you? He asked. Will you stay in Lumina? She glanced toward the horizon. For now. There's something special here, a sense of belonging I've never felt before. He smiled softly. I'm glad. As the days turned into weeks, their lives intertwined seamlessly. Cain embraced his role on the council, introducing new practices that emphasized emotional well-being and community engagement. Lyra started a workshop teaching art and storytelling, encouraging others to express themselves creatively. One evening, during a festival celebrating the return of the fading star, Cain found Lyra standing at the edge of the village, gazing up at the sky. "Penny for your thoughts?" he asked, joining her. She sighed contentedly. "Just thinking about how much has changed." "How much I've changed?" He looked at her thoughtfully. "Change can be a beautiful thing." She turned to face him. "Cain, there's something I've been meaning to tell you." He felt his heartbeat quicken. "What is it?" She took a step closer. "I've traveled far and wide, searching for something I couldn't quite name. But here, with you, I think I've found it." He reached out, gently taking her hand. "Lyra, you've brought so much light into my life. I can't imagine facing the future without you." A smile spread across her face. "Then perhaps we can continue this journey together." He pulled her into an embrace, the stars above seeming to shine brighter as they held each other. Years passed, and Lumina flourished under their joint guidance. Cain and Lyra married in a joyous celebration that drew visitors from distant lands. Their partnership became a symbol of unity, inspiring others to forge deeper connections within their own communities. One night, as they sat on the same hill where Cain used to listen to the stars alone, Lyra rested her head on his shoulder. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't lost your connection that night?" He thought for a moment. "I believe everything happened as it was meant to. Losing my connection led me to you, to a deeper understanding of myself and our world." She nodded. "Sometimes, we have to lose something precious to find something even more valuable." He kissed her forehead gently. "I'm grateful for every step that brought us here." Their children, a boy and a girl, ran up the hill, laughter bubbling from their lips. "Mama, Papa, come look. The stars are dancing." Cain and Lyra exchanged amused glances and stood up. Together, they followed their children to a spot where the night sky unfolded in all its glory. The stars did seem to dance, twinkling in patterns that spoke of endless possibilities. As they stood there, a family united under the vast expanse of the cosmos, Cain felt a profound peace settle within him. The journey he'd embarked upon had led him not just to restore his connection with the stars, but to forge unbreakable bonds with others. He looked at Lyra and then at his children, his heart overflowing. "This is the true essence of Starlight," he thought. "Not just the whispers from above, but the love and connections we cultivate here on Earth." The stars whispered their ancient songs, and this time, their melody was enriched by the chorus of human voices or by stories of hope, unity, and love.